Greetings, welcome back to Man Cave Meals for part 5 of our all grain home brewing series. We have our beer transferred into these buckets, these fermenter buckets, and we are ready to add the yeast. I'm going to add 1 packet of dry yeast to each bucket. We're using a Nottingham Danstar for each of these, so we're just going to sprinkle this yeast right on top. And this is all I do. There's a lot of people who will do yeast starters. They'll rehydrate their yeast first. I don't do it. Everything works fine. One thing I did not show in the video here is I shook these up. I put the lids on and sealed them and shook this up to oxygenate this very well before we get started here. So we're going to put the lid back on each bucket and seal it down good and tight. And next we'll add the airlocks. Each bucket's going to get 1 airlock. And then we'll fill each airlock to the water fill line. And put the centerpiece in. Put the cap on. And we're going to let these ferment away. These are going to ferment for 14 days in the primary. I'm not going to transfer to secondary, and after 14 days in the fermenter we'll bottle this, but in the meantime I'll come back and show you the airlocks bubbling and everything along the way, so we'll be back at that time. Okay, we're about 12 hours into our ferment. It's been about 12 hours or so since I pitched the yeast, and I just wanted to show you the airlocks bubbling here. 12 hours is possible. You know, sometimes it takes a little longer than that to actually see activity in the airlock, and sometimes it comes on fairly quickly, but this one's bubbling right along, and that bubbling is being created by the yeast working in there on all those sugars. And like I said before, they're consuming those sugars and producing carbon dioxide, and it's at a fairly hefty rate. So there's our first 5-gallon bucket. It's bubbling a little harder than this guy. This guy's bubbling a little bit, but it's not going quite as fast as the other one. But we'll see airlock activity here for several days, probably I don't know, 4 or 5 days. And then it'll die down to where you won't see any, but there's still a lot going on in there. I'm not going to get into the details of what all the yeast does, just for the sake of keeping this video series simple. But we're going to ferment for 14 days, and when this ferment's over, we'll be back to have a look, and we'll take a gravity reading, and then we'll be able to get the actual alcohol content of this beer. This is going to be a fairly low alcohol content beer. It's going to be somewhere between 4 and 4.5%. So we'll be back. Okay, our fermentation's complete. We're here 2 weeks. 2 weeks, 14 days exactly after we started this ferment. I measured my gravity. The gravity measured at 1.008. So our calculation of alcohol content based on the 1.043 starting point, this comes out to about roughly 4.5 or 4.6% alcohol. So our fermentation is complete, and as you can see, there's a ring of crud around the top of the bucket there. That's left over from the fermentation. That's just yeast cake, basically. There's probably a good bit of yeast sludge on the bottom of this bucket also, so we're ready to bottle this, so I need to transfer it to my bottling bucket. And in the next video, come back and I'll show you how all this is bottled up.